Hey, this is Joshua with Cultural Catholic coming at you with another International Wednesday. A little bit of housekeeping before we go forward. The order of the stories will be on the UK and their new ban, the fires in the French Riviera, recent reports on North Korea, and Jerusalem. Let's get started. All right. So, CNN reported today today that Britain will ban sales of new gasoline and diesel cars starting in 2040 as part of a bid to clean up the country's air. The decision to phase out the internal combustion engine heralds a new era of low-emission technologies with major implications for the auto industry, society, and the environment. We can't carry on with diesel and petrol cars, UK Environment Secretary Michael Gove told the BBC on Wednesday. There is no alternative to embracing new technology. So little context here. A lot of countries are trying to lower their emissions and try to stave off climate change as best they can as part of the Paris Climate Accords. And earlier this month, France did something similar. I think a little bit later, I don't remember when they plan to end their emissions. Later in this article, which I'll have posted in the description below. And I think is a great step forward, and there are a lot of benefits going with it. Um, and this is a very important step because electric cars and non-traditionally fueled cars are becoming more popular in the UK, as CNN points out. The car industry says the demand for electric vehicles will only reach a tipping point once they're cheaper to own than conventional vehicles. Much depends on the cost of new technologies and how willing consumers are to adopt battery, plug-in hybrid, and hydrogen cars, said Mike Hawes, CEO of the Society of Motor Vehicles and Traders. Consumers have concerns over affordability, and range, and charging points. Now that's the drawbacks that they have currently, but um, there was a 40% increase in 2015 in the sale of non-traditional cars. Granted, it's only like 3% of the market in the UK. And the UK is the biggest car market outside of Germany in Europe. But this is a good step forward for the UK to ultimately lower its emissions. And what is important for the UK is that the deadline announced by the government on Wednesday as part of a plan to reduce air pollution, the blueprint highlighted roughly £1.4 billion, or $1.8 billion, in government investment designed to help ensure that every vehicle on the road in Britain produces zero emissions by 2050. Gove said action was needed because gasoline and diesel engines contribute to health problems, accelerate climate change, do damage to the planet and the next generation. Roughly 40,000 deaths in Britain each year are attributed to outdoor air pollution, according to a study published last year by the Royal College of Physicians. Dirty air has been linked to cancer, asthma, stroke, and heart disease, among other health issues. So, obviously, this is good for the health of the people of the UK. It may be a little late because we're already feeling a lot of the effects, and the Paris Climate Accords don't go as far as they should. Actually, Costa Rica did not sign on because it didn't go far enough. I mean, it's a good start, but they should have gone a little bit farther. But hopefully, there are some changes that will be made so there aren't too many horrible effects going forward. Next will be the Riviera in France is experiencing some fires, as the Associated Press reported today. Explaining authorities ordered the evacuation of 10,000 people as fires hopscotched around the Riviera for a third day Wednesday, carrying through the forest of Lons-le-Marais. A violent fire took off in the dry Mediterranean forest around La Lone just before 11 p.m. the night before, with 540 firefighters were sent into the region. The prefect of the Var region, the top state official, said in a statement around 3,000 campers were among the 10,000 evacuated from Lalonde and nearby. My French is horrible because I didn't take any. Borles-Mimosa and La Lavando, the prefect of the Lobar region, the top state official, said in a statement. So, kind of associated with climate change, there's a lot of fires going on, especially in hot and dry regions, which the Mediterranean is during the summer. And it's only exacerbating the problems that come during fire season. It's causing a lot of damage in regions that experience a lot of wildfires, such as the Riviera. I mean, in America, we see that all the time in the far west, and so it's just something that we have to deal with. And the Associated Press through NBC explains fires began raging along the coast on Monday, forcing smaller, scattered evacuations, with flames reaching a corner of Saint-Tropez. Since noon Tuesday, firefighters had conducted about 100 operations, the prefecture said. Further east reinforcements were sent in to battle a blaze in Artigues that burned up to 4,200 acres of forest land. Another fire was contained Tuesday evening in La Croix-Valmer after burning 2 villas, seriously injuring 1 firefighter and devouring 1,235 acres. France's Mediterranean coast is particularly vulnerable to fires with its massive backcountry forests, often dry in the summer, and mistral winds blowing across the sea to fan flames. Smoke flew across the shore from the fires that were visible across the bays to the picturesque coast, frightening some, but firefighters warned against panic. No injuries have been reported among residents and vacationers. So things are pretty contained. They're not getting too out of control. Granted, there's a lot of damage to property and land, but not too many people are hurt. And the Mistral winds that were referenced there, that is the winds that come in from the Mediterranean during the summer. It's a hot, dry air that obviously improves the chance of wildfires occurring. Associated with climate change, but obviously it's not. It is a symptom. It's not a cause, and obviously it is something that the French authorities are having some difficulty with, but not too much so that it is a huge danger. Speaking of huge danger, the New York Times reported American intelligence agencies have shortened their estimate to 1 year of how long it is likely to take North Korea to put the finishing touches on a missile that can reach the continental U.S., according to several administration officials briefed on the new assessment. Until a few weeks ago, the official estimate was that it would take roughly 4 years, give or take 12 months, for North Korea to develop a missile that could carry a nuclear weapon small enough to fit in the missile's warhead and capable of surviving the stresses of re-entry and deliver to the United States. A little background on this: earlier this month, there was a test by North Korea of a ballistic missile that if the path were straightened out, because it shot straight up, that it could hit the United States and Alaska. That was a big story. That is obviously something that we should be concerned about. And it did not seem as much of a threat because there's a lot of factors going into ballistic missiles, re-entry, fuel type, but obviously the technology and capabilities of the North Koreans are improving, and agencies are stating that. However, I don't think that North Korea will actually use it. I know Kim Jong-un is kind of like Joffrey, only real, but I don't think he's stupid enough to cause a nuclear war to break out. I think he's just going to use it as a deterrent, um, and that could cause. And I think that could cause nuclear proliferation to Japan and South Korea, so that they could use it as a deterrent. Um, I think that is the most concerning part of uh, North Korea having nuclear weapons, to be honest. Um, but what is interesting is what's come out of why the estimate itself is important. Quote, in the Iraq case, when specifically talking about the uh, amount of time it would have taken Iraq to restart its weapons of mass destruction program, the intelligence agencies overestimated Saddam Hussein's ability to reconstitute what was once a healthy nuclear weapons program. In the North Korean case, one senior intelligence official noted last week, the speed and sophistication of the program have been consistently underestimated, much as it was with the Soviet Union 70 years ago and China more than 50 years ago. So basically, what it's saying is that the United States didn't really have confidence in its capabilities, North Korea's capabilities, much like they did with the Soviet Union and China, who are real threats. And you could say North Korea is a threat to some extent, whereas they overestimated a minor threat and how well it could reconstitute weapons programs. Of course, that was done for a political agenda, as we now know. Now on to the final story. CNN reports that Palestinian leaders have urged Muslim worshippers to keep praying outside the Al-Aqsa compound in protest at Israel's installation of metal detectors and security cameras near the site, even though Israel removed metal detectors early Tuesday morning. Speaking at a leadership meeting on Tuesday, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said all the Israeli measures on the grounds from that date to the present are supposed to cease to exist, and then things will return to normal in Jerusalem. So a little background. Earlier last week, there was some violence at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is one of the holiest sites in Islam, right up there with Mecca, Medina, and the Dome of the Rock. And this is in Jerusalem, which is one of the three holy cities of Islam. And Israel, in response, started to increase its restrictions, and that caused a lot of tension to the point where they installed metal detectors and security cameras. However, the religious authority based out of Jordan that was in charge of the Temple Mount of the Al-Aqsa compound basically said, "Don't go in, just pray outside, protest," and that's great. I like that. Nonviolent protesting is the preferred method of causing social and governmental change. Of course, with the Palestinians, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I think this obviously did cause some changes, and hopefully this will continue to cause important changes, because there really needs to be a change in how Palestine and Israel interact. CNN explained that Israel installed metal detectors and security cameras near the entrances of the sacred site, known to Muslims as the Noble Sanctuary and Jews as the Temple Mount, following an attack which 2 Israeli officers were killed. The removal of the metal detectors was applauded by the White House, and this points out that the White House was a little angry. I'm not entirely sure that it was everyone in the White House, but elements in the White House for sure were probably angry, particularly probably Kushner and Priebus and Ivanka. But I think there really does need to be serious conversations done on the Israelis' part with the Palestinians to kind of fix this problem and see where they can go from here to make sure that problems like this don't arise in the future. Um, with the government that they have, I'm not sure that is possible. Um, and especially with the backing that the United States is giving it with the current administration. But so there's always hope. So this is Joshua Zeller signing off from Cultural Catholic.